We've talked a little bit about the standouts. Is there one that you like more than the others, or is this going to really be a showdown?
Well, the interesting showdown, I think, will be, can a good big horse beat a good little horse, and can either one of them beat a rugged tank? Sherman Almehurst called the tank. Barberry Spur, a big, rangy, strong type of horse who's come on late, immature early in the season. Getting to his maturity now has been outstanding. And Robust Hanover, a very small, very, very fast horse. So it's going to be an interesting confrontation. We'll see whether they get to the final, and we'll see how they do.
Well, remember, there are 2 eliminations first, so we get to see 3 outstanding races tonight. Kenny Rice is with us again tonight. Kenny is trackside in this cold weather. He's been checking out what's going on at this beautiful racetrack in suburban Maryland.
They've been racing at Rosecroft since 1949. There is a considerable amount of history and tradition at this track, as you might imagine. Most of it can be traced to the Miller family. William Miller, the great horseman, founded this track. The tradition was carried on by his son John, who was past president here, and the tradition continues with William Miller II, who is the president and general manager of Rosecroft. Bill, it is good to be back here at Rosecroft, and we are on a track that used to be the site of your grandfather's farm.
That's right, Kenny. My grandfather raced horses from 1910 until he died in 1953, and this is built on his stock farm.
What does it mean to you when you come out here and you look around, you see pictures of your dad, your grandfather, and people always talk about the racing Millers and the family tradition that carries on here?
Well, obviously it makes me feel good. It also makes my job a lot easier. It's always easy to work with people who've known your parents.
Any advice passed along down the ages? Any one way to run a track?
No, things have changed. When we started racing in 1949, we raced 20 nights. Right now we're racing 145. So the sport and night racing, as far as operationally at the plant, has changed quite a bit.
And a big night ahead in the Breeders' Crown Series, returning again to Rosecroft.
We're going to have another great night. We're looking forward to it.
The richest racing event in Maryland history, and also a chance to decide, in all probability, the divisional championship.
That's right.
Bill, good seeing you again.
Thank you very much, Kenny.
Thank you very much. Bill Miller, who is the president and general manager of Rosecroft, the 3rd generation of Miller to run the Rosecroft Raceway. Sharon?
Well, thank you, Kenny. And a large crowd has turned out to see these 14 two-year-old pacing colts. This is the morning line for the first elimination, and the favorite Barberry Spur listed at 2-1 by the odds makers. Of course, the fans get their chance to vote, so to speak, and will establish their own odds. Second choice going in, Towner's Big Guy, and you can look at the rest of the odds, the longest shot at 12-1. So this is a pretty consistent group of young colts. Now, the second elimination features a couple of favorites. While Robust Hanover, the morning line favorite at 5-2, not far behind Sherman Almehurst, the tank, at 3-1. And again, no real long shots. Cash Asset, a Nitros colt at 10-1 is the longest shot in the second elimination. So 14 good 2-year-old pacing colts in 2 eliminations. They are trying to qualify for the final of the Breeder Jersey Securities. Come grow with us. By Castleton Farms, tradition of excellence, commitment to the future. And by U.S. Air, with service to over 100 cities across the U.S. and Canada. The first elimination is just ahead. We will be right back at Rosecroft Raceway in Maryland in just a minute. Welcome back to Rosecroft Raceway, where the track is extremely fast. The rain in this area over the past week has not affected the track. It's in excellent condition. 40 degrees, well, the forecast is for it to get down around freezing tonight, clear and cold conditions. Now, the horses certainly won't mind the cold temperatures. They like it. In fact, if they have to race twice tonight, it's probably so much the better for them. They won't get all that tired out. And we are going to be seeing 14 young colts race twice tonight. They have to, remember, win or finish in the first 4 in an elimination and then get to the final.
First elimination of the Breeders' Crown. This one carrying a purse of $84,194, and the first 4 finishers will qualify for the final.
And we do have a field of 7 two-year-old pacing colts. Now let's take a look at the odds now for this. Very short odds you see on Barberry Spur. We knew he was going to be the favorite, but 1-5, Stan, that seems awfully short.
Well, they're very impressed with him. He set a world record, of course, on a half-mile track of 1 minute 55 2/5 at Delaware, Ohio on Little Brown Jug Day. He is a big, powerful, rugged colt that has come to his form late, and he has been virtually invincible in recent starts. The only horse that beat him, Robust Hanover, is in the other elimination. We'll see how he does.
Well, the rest of this field, including Tijuana Blue Chip, Smartest Remark, by the way, like Barberry Spur, a son of Niatros, Brad's fellow, Barberry Spur Souffle, Towner's Big Guy, who's getting some support, and Cornerstone. Here is the horse. This is the big horse, Barberry Spur.
I was talking to his co-owner a little while ago, Roy Davis, and asked him how he bought this colt for $40,000, which is inexpensive for a Niatros colt. And he said it was because he was too big. He was so big, rugged, and raw-boned that a lot of buyers, including Lou Gaida, who has bought most of the good Niatroses, including Annihilator, passed him up. Here's Towner's Big Guy. He's been second to Barberry Spur in his last 2 starts, and this colt, Buddy Gilmore, who's driving him, says is a future star. He said if nothing happens to this colt, you will hear from him as a 3-year-old. He's a colt that's coming on very, very strong.
Who's already won nearly $500,000, so I think we could call him a current star.
And Barberry Spur, who cost $40,000, has won $802,759. Good return on investment.
Now here is Souffle, a son of French chef. That was a well-named horse.
Wasn't a very aptly named horse, and he's been doing well. He's won $245,000 this year. He was third in the richest harness race of the year, the $1.35 million Governor's Cup at Garden State, which Barberry Spur won. And he's being driven by Ben Webster tonight. He has won 5 of his 14 starts, and he has been 10 times first, second, or third. He's formidable. I think the other 2, Sharon, that we're going to have to look for as possible qualifiers are Tijuana Blue Chip, who is the 1 horse here, being driven by John Hogan, and Smartest Remark, who has the most successful Breeders' Crown driver, John Campbell, in the bike.
And, of course, let's watch Bill O'Donnell as well. Every time Bill O'Donnell wins another $1 on the racetrack, he sets another record, because last night Bill O'Donnell broke his own single-season money-winning record, driving a horse by the name of, was it Annihilator, to a victory in an overnight?
I know that the earnings took him up to $9 million, $9,061,000 for the horses driven by Bill O'Donnell this year, breaking his own record and putting him in a very good position to win $10 million this year, because, among other things, he will have the favorite tonight, probably, in Barberry Spur, and he will have the favorite next week at Pompano and Armbro Devona, and probably, of course, with Annihilator when we go back to Garden State at the end of the month.
And, of course, he does have a chance to win some more money tonight. Now, these 2-year-old pacing colts are slowly getting ready to line up behind the gate. Again, this is a half-mile track, so we see them twice. We see them go around twice. We've seen several different-sized tracks in our Breeders' Crown series, and this is a half-mile track. And, again, that's something to watch with young horses. Some of these drivers may be a little bit concerned that their horses, the big striding ones, might not handle the half-mile very well, but they have no choice now but to try it as they line up.
Behind the starting gate on the backstretch, it'll swing around the upper turn, and they will be off right in front of the grandstand at the finish line and go around twice.
This looks like a well-behaved bunch as they are getting into line. The starter looking to line them up. And we are approaching the start. The track announcer, Billy Perkins. Let's send it to Billy right now.
Thank you, Sharon. Here they come. 7 of the top 2-year-olds now moving in behind the starting gate. Tijuana Blue Chip, Smartest Remark, Brad's Fellow, Barberry Spur, Souffle, Towner's Big Guy, Cornerstone, and we're ready for the starts. And let it go, driving out for that lead. Barberry Spur in the middle of the racetrack. Souffle up on the outside. Tijuana Blue Chip down along the rail. 3 of them across the racetrack as they speed around that first turn. It's Smartest Remark down along the rail in 4th. Barad's Fella got away in 5th. Towner's Big Guy comes on and Cornerstone trails the field. They'll battle the back lane on their way to the quarter now, rolling to the front end. Souffle grabs the racetrack for Ben Webster, but not for long. The Barberry Spur on the outside, and Bill O'Donnell takes the lead. The quarter time, 28 and 1/5. Swing around back to Brinkley turn the first time. The lead belongs to Barberry Spur on the engine. Souffle right there second. Tijuana Blue Chip third. Smartest Remark fourth. Here comes Towner's Big Guy early on the outside. They move in front of the grandstand out of the halfway mark. It's Barberry Spur in command, up by 2 open lengths. The half 57 and 4. Souffle second, and Towner's Big Guy goes to work on the outside third. Tijuana Blue Chip along the rail fourth. Smartest Remark picks up the cover fifth on the outside. Brad's Fella locked at the rail sixth. And here comes Cornerstone on the outside. 7 of them take them down the back lane. Barberry Spur out there on top. But right there is Souffle. Towner's big guy just keeps on it, coming on the outside. 3/4, 1:28. They'll go to the final quarter mile. It's Barberry Spur on top. Off stride, Towner's big guy. Souffle is now second as they swing around that turn. Smartest Remark the outside third. Tijuana Blue Chip in fourth. They make the swing. Brad's Fella fifth. Drive to the finish mark. Barberry Spur under a big drive. Souffle, he's tough. Tijuana Blue Chip up the rail. Barberry Spur fights to hang on. Here they are. Record time, 1:57.1. Back to you.
And thank you, Billy. And we did indeed see a record. Boy, did we see a record by a 2-year-old pacing colt. That colt took more than a second off the track record.
The track record here was 1:58 2/5, and Barberry Spur, in winning this elimination, wins it in 1:57 1/5. So as Sharon says, he takes more than a second off the track record, showing us a little promise of what's about to come tonight.
What a marvelous performance by this colt. We are going to take a short time out. Remember, elimination number 2 is just ahead. We're back at Rosecroft Raceway, where we can show you the payoffs for the first elimination. Barberry Spur, the winner, didn't pay a lot. He was odds on. 240, 220, and 210. Tijuana Blue Chip paying 360 and 240 to play. Souffle paying 240 to show. And Exacta, if you had it, didn't pay a whole lot either, 1180. And of course, Barberry Spur did set a new track record for 2-year-old pacers of 1:57 and 1. And Smartest Remark also qualified out of that first elimination. Now, these horses were racing for money in in this elimination, and will in the second as well. $42,000 for first place, all the way down to $4,200 for fifth place. So in addition to the big purse and the Breeders' Crown final, they earned a little bit of money tonight just in the eliminations. So that is elimination number 1. We've got 4 horses in. Barberry Spur, Tijuana Blue Chip, Souffle, Smartest Remark have already made it to the final of the Breeders' Crown.
Here's the second elimination of the Breeders' Crown. 7 2-year-old pacers. The elimination worth $84,000, leading to a $505,000 final. And the crowd is installed as the 4-5 favorite, a horse making the 6th start of his life, Robust Hanover. He's by Warm Breeze, who is also the sire of the brilliant half-mile track world champion Falcon Sealster, a sensation this year. And this colt has won 4 out of 5 and beat Barberry Spur on October 11th in 1:55 1/5 in the 3rd start of his life. Also, here's Sherman Almahurst, the 7 horse coming in behind the gate. He won the first 7 races of his life. He's won 10 of 13 and $488,000, but he has been off for a month, and it's very hard for a colt coming back after a month layoff to do that good. And finally, number 4, Sharon, Happy Chatter, who won the Fox Stake.
Well, it's a good field, but everybody's got their eye, apparently, on Robust Hanover. This horse going off odds on, even though the rest of the field has won a lot of money so far this season. These 7 2-year-old pacing colts are lining up. Billy Perkins, the track announcer, let's send it to Billy right now.
Okay, Sharon, and thank you. Here they come. 7 top 2-year-olds this time moving in behind the starting gate. Uncut Jade, Maritime Hanover, Audubon Hanover, Happy Cheddar, Cash Asset, Robust Hanover, and Sherman Almahurst. They're on gate and we're ready for another great start. And there it go, and driving out for that lead. Happy Cheddar up on the outside as they swing into that turn. Cash Asset made a break. They'll swing around that turn now, battle for the front end spot. From the outside, Happy Cheddar moves up, challenges, shows, and goes to the front. Uncut Jade now second, and winging on the outside. That's Audubon Hanover from 3rd, 2nd to go after that leader. Maritime Hanover down along the rail in 4th. Robust Hanover got away 5th. Cash Asset back racing in 6th, and Sherman Almahurst trails the field in 29 seconds flat. They'll swing around that paddock turn the first time. Uncut Jade out and winging once again. He wants that lead again. Audubon Hanover 2nd. Off stride there was Happy Cheddar. Robust Hanover comes into contention now 3rd. Cash Asset back racing 4th. Sherman Almahurst gets underway. Happy Cheddar looks for some room on the outside, and Maritime Hanover now trails as they roll down to the half. 5th 58-3. Robust Hanover and John Campbell on the outside, on the inside, Uncut Jade and Dick Stillings. They'll battle that clubhouse turn the second time. Cash Asset up on the outside. He's going to go 3 wide. Audubon Hanover locked in 4th. On the outside, Happy Chatter 5th. Maritime Hanover now 6th, and here comes Sherman Elmhurst. 7 of them down the back lane. Robust Hanover to the front end. Up on the outside, Cash Asset now to challenge 128 and 1/5. They'll go to that final turn. Happy Chatter the outside 3rd. Uncut Jade backs off to 4th. Sherman Elmhurst closing on the field 5th. Audubon Hanover locked in, nowhere to go, and Maritime Hanover begins his move. They're off the turn and to the wire as they come through the lane. Robust Hanover on top by 2. Cash Asset is 2nd. Sherman Elmhurst not a close, but it's all Robust Hanover. 157-4. Sharon, back to you.
And thank you, Billy. And again, a time faster than the previous track record for 2-year-old pacing colts, but
which Robust held. Broke his own record last week when he set the record, was over a good track. Tonight, a fast track. And John Campbell, who drove him, eased him around the turn after the half-mile mark, waiting till he got onto the backstretch. And once there, he shot him to the front, and he won handily in 157-4. You can see why he's a late-season sensation.
Let's take a look again at the horses that are going to go into the final. Interestingly, we had a couple of breaks, but some interesting developments. The horses got back in the race.
It was impressive to see Sherman Elmhurst race as well as he did. As we mentioned, he'd been laid off for a month, and it's very difficult for Colt to come back. He had 2 qualifying races, won one of them by 17 lengths up at Mohawk. But it's in Canada, Toronto, but it's very difficult for Colt to go into top competition as this one was after being off a month. He came back and did it handily and did qualify, but they're going to have trouble beating Robust Hanover and Barberry Spur. Which is the better?
That's quite a final coming up between these 2 colts. 2 very, very impressive elimination performances. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with a look at a way to sell a yearling Standardbred in just a minute. We're back at Rosecroft, where we can show you the payoffs here at the track for the second elimination. Robust Hanover, the favorite, the winner, 360, 260, and 220. Cash Asset, a long shot, finishing second, paying $13.40 and $5. Sherman Elmhurst paying $2.40 to show. Let's go down to Kenny Rice, trackside.
Thanks, Sharon. The consensus is the winner of tonight's race, barring any kind of upset, will be the divisional champ. And already they're thinking about divisional champs for next year at yearling auctions. Sharon Smith recently visited one.
These Standardbred yearlings at Hanover Shoe Farm in Pennsylvania were scheduled to be sold shortly after this demonstration before potential buyers. The colts and fillies, both trotters and pacers, were shown with cantering ponies to demonstrate their gait to people interested in buying them. Pedigree and conformation remain the primary selling points for young racehorses, but the buyers are given an additional source of information with the demonstration, just how the horses are likely to look in action once they begin training. Hanover President John Simpson Sr. explains why it's an advantage and a growing trend to lead yearlings. It's not just as a sales tool.
The main reason for leading them is 2 conditions. First of all, they're athletes because they're going to race, we hope. And the owners will get them and start breaking, and their trainers will start breaking them and put them in training. And we feel that a couple of months of leading, when they come out of the pastures before they're sold, conditions them for what they're going to face at the racetrack.
Standardbred yearlings are still shown in the traditional way, too. The Speedy Crown Colt, for example, needs only to show off his extraordinary good looks to draw interest in a high bid. But to people paying thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars for an untried horse, every additional bit of information allows a buyer to make what he hopes will be a better decision. Well, we'll find out next year if that colt is going to amount to anything, but we are seeing a whole group of colts that certainly are amounting to something. 2-year-old pacers in the final. Let's look at the current odds now. The entry of Cash Asset and Smartest for Market, 5-2, short odds for these horses. Barberry Spur, the favorite, at 3-5. And you can look at the rest of the field right now as we approach the final of the Breeders' Crown race. Back with more in a few minutes.
The Erie Canal that linked mid-America to the port of New York took 8 back-breaking years to dig by hand.
Welcome back to Rosecroft Raceway in Maryland for the Breeders' Crown for 2-year-old pacing colts and geldings. I'm Sharon Smith along with Stan Bergstein and Kenny Rice. And the final of this Breeders' Crown race is only about 10 minutes away. We're going to see 8 two-year-old pacing colts compete for more than $500,000 in this final. And in fact, $505,000. Of course, they've already won a little bit by simply qualifying by finishing in the first 4 in their eliminations. And we are seeing some interesting things as we're about to see the post parade here, and some interesting betting patterns, which we will tell you about as we look at these horses. First of all, let's run down the horses that have made it. The number 1 horse is Cash Asset. He'll start from post position number 3. Mickey McNichol is the driver. This is a Nitross colt who is owned by Wall Street Stable, now part of the same ownership that owns Annihilator, and he goes into this with not a huge amount of earnings, but he's a horse with tremendous speed. 1A, Smartest Remark. This is another Nitross colt, and Don Irvine is the driver here. Dream Air Corporation owns this colt, part of the same owners as Cash Asset, hence the entry. Now, he finished 4th in his first elimination. That is Smartest Remark, one of 3 Nitross colts in this final. On to the number 2 horse. This is Barberry Spur, the new track record holder for 2-year-old pacing colts at this track, 57-1 in his elimination. Bill O'Donnell is the driver. This is the 3rd Nitross colt. We've seen 3 out of the 8 that have qualified. Roy Davis and partners, the owners of this colt. He's based in western Pennsylvania. He's said to be a very friendly colt that likes to be patted and have his tongue played with. I see his tongue is tied down. Maybe he likes to hang it out of his mouth as he races. Bill O'Donnell is the driver of Barberry Spur, who appears to be the favorite. The number 3 horse is Robust Hanover. This is not a very robust colt. He's a small colt, but obviously healthy and happy at this point in the season. He was the winner of the 2nd elimination, just a fraction slower than the 1st elimination, the previous track record holder here. And Robust Hanover's only lost once in his life, and he finished 2nd in that race. So he and John Campbell probably have some confidence going into the Breeders' Crown final tonight. So that was a look at Robust Hanover as we continue now with our post parade of these horses for the final of the 2-year-old colt pace. The number 4 horse is Tijuana Blue Chip. Buddy Gilmore will get the drive. John Campbell had him in the elimination. Obviously can't drive 2 horses, so he has opted to go with Robust Hanover, and Buddy gets the drive with Tijuana Blue Chip, who was a very impressive 2nd in his elimination. This is Precious Fella colt, and he is a handsome colt who did a good job tonight in his elimination, so he's got some owners that are very pleased to see that. Number 5 is Souffle. This is a French chef colt, and we like his name. Finished 3rd in his first elimination. Ben Webster is the driver of this colt. Melvin and Scharf, the owners, and he is a handsome colt as well, who impressed in his first elimination. Continuing on now with our post parade, the number 6 horse is Sherman Elmerhurst. Now, this is a horse that's already won $500,000 in his career. Had a little bit of traffic problems in his elimination. Hasn't actually raced for a month, and he won a couple of very impressive qualifiers, though, in the meanwhile. He was 3rd in the 2nd elimination. He's a son of Royce, who is a new stallion and has impressed with his first crop. Certainly, Sherman Elmerhurst has impressed. Famous 8 Stables, the owner of this colt, and Doug Brown is the driver as he goes out onto the track slowly. That is Sherman Elmerhurst. Let's continue on now. Number 7 is Happy Chatter. This is a handsome little colt, a son of Most Happy Fella. I think probably the next to last crop of Most Happy Fella, who died a couple years ago. He was 4th in the 2nd elimination. Doug Ackerman is the driver. Richard Staley, the owner. We've seen Mr. Staley's horses in most of our Breeders' Crown races so far this season. They've got one into the final here in a nice-looking little colt named Happy Chatter. So let us take a little closer look now at these horses. We've seen them all. They're a pretty impressive bunch, Stan.
Well, they're an impressive bunch. It looked like Sherman Elmerhurst thought he had enough with that first heat. He was a little reluctant to come out onto the track as Groom was leading him, and Doug Brown was tapping him to get him out on the track. I think, Sharon, that the crowd was a little bit confused here by the entry. The entry 1 and 1A do a very heavy support in the early wagering. They're now catching up with Robust Hanover, but he almost certainly has to be 2nd choice behind Barberry Spur, and they're now beginning to swing to him. I think that they've been watching the message board here and finding out that 1 and 1A are just the head numbers because of the entry.
We saw some early odds of 15-1 in Robust Hanover, and we were tempted to rush down and get our own bets in at that.
We should explain, we suppose, how they get their post position in an elimination situation as we had tonight. The 2 winners, Barberry Spur and Robust Hanover, drew in a drawing between the races. The owners drew, or the judges actually made the drawing. The owners weren't around, for positions 1 and 2. Then the 2 second horses, who were cash asset in Tijuana, Hanover, their pills were put into a bottle and were drawn for post positions 3 and 4, and so forth. So it was the 2 winners, the 2 second finishers, the 2 third finishers, and the 2 fourth finishers, and that's how they got their post positions, which of course are of critical importance.
Well, here is a look now at Sherman Elmhurst, as he apparently is happy about trotting down or pacing down the track right now. He didn't want to come out, but he looks reasonably happy. He's by himself out there on the track warming up. Let's take a look at some of these other horses. This is number 5. This is Soufflé, and Ben Webster is the driver of this colt. And Kenny Rice spoke with Ben Webster a little bit earlier about his colt and other races in this Breeders' Crown Series. Kenny?
I'm in the paddock with Ben Webster, the driver of Soufflé. How does he look coming into tonight's race, Ben?
Well, Kenny, he's a nice colt. The people just bought him here recently, and he raced awful well at Garden State 2 weeks ago, and I'm certain that he'll make a good account of himself.
Now, a couple of weeks back in Canada, you had a horse that a lot of people wanted to see race, Flat Bait. He did not race. Why is that?
Well, we had some problems with the Ontario Racing Commission, and I had applied for my license 6 weeks prior to that event in hopes to get a hearing with the commission. The commission went through a complete turnover, and they didn't get around to a hearing. They had given me one on the 13th of November. I had requested one earlier so that I could race my Flat Bait horse up there and try practice, and I think that he's equal or damn near as good as practice, and they wouldn't give me a hearing, and I entered him in the Breeders' Crown hoping that I could force the issue.
Well, Ben gets a chance to race for $500,000 tonight because Soufflé has made it to the final. $252,000 first prize, all the way down to $25,000 for fifth. The final is still ahead here at Rosecroft Raceway in Maryland. We're going to take a timeout and then be right back.
I'm in the paddock with Mr. Roy Davis, one of the owners of Barberry Spur. A lot of people like Barberry Spurs. He gets ready to go now in the finals. What impresses you most about this 2-year-old?
Well, I think he's just now coming into his own, and he's a late foal, and he's big and strong colt, and I think it's just going to be tough to beat him, to tell you the truth, because it's a case where bigger is always better, and he's just big, long-going colt, and I think he's got an excellent chance to win it all.
You mentioned big and strong, and I think that has been one of the reasons he has been successful late in the season. He does seem to be coming on, grooming himself for a 3-year-old campaign.
That's right, and as I said, all along we knew he was a good colt, and I think a lot of we owe it to Dick Stillings for doing a good job bringing him along. I think if I had my way, I might have rushed him a little bit more than Dick did, and now he's sound, 100% sound, and I think we gave him a week off, and he's come along and do real good, and I look for him to win it.
No worries about 2 races in one night then for this big horse?
Because usually after any one race, time we get back to paddock, he's completely at ease and not breathing hard, and so he's in excellent shape. We've never gone 2 heats with him, but that's really not one of our worries at all.
Winner of this Breeders' Crown, you think, will be the divisional champ?
I think there's no question about it. Barberry Spur wins it. He's the 2-year-old pacer of the year.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Davis. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Roy Davis, one of the co-owners of Barberry Spur. Sharon?
Well, Barberry Spur is going off as the favorite. Sherman Elmhurst did not want to line up, and I think they've forced him to right now. So it should be some interesting developments as these 8 2-year-old pacing colts line up. We are about to start. Billy Perkins is the track announcer. Let's give it to Billy right now.
And thanks once again, Sharon. They swing around the turn, and here they come. Ladies and gentlemen, the 8 horses moving in behind the gate as we go for this $505,000 purse, largest purse ever here in the state of Maryland. We're looking forward to this one. We're ready for the start. And there they go, and out for the lead. It's Soufflé out quickly in the middle of the racetrack. That's Barberry Spur down along the rail in second. Then coming on, Robust Hanover is third. Cash Asset getting away in fourth. They'll go to the back lane now and head to that first quarter. Tijuana Blue Chip in fifth. Up on the outside, Sherman Elmhurst to be sixth. Happy Chatter got away seventh, and Smartest Remark trails the field. 8 horses up tight, the quarter, 28 and 4 more action on the front end early as Robust Hanover grabs the lead away. They'll swing around the turn. Barberry Spur has to take the 2 spot. A gap of 3 back now. Souffle comes on in third. Cash has set racing fourth. Tijuana Blue Chip fifth. Sherman Elmhurst out and rolling now 6th. Smartest Remark in 7th, and Half-Beat Cheddar coming through the lane to the halfway mark. In command of it, John Campbell and Robust Hanover. They'll click the half, 57 and 4. In second, Barberry Spur. Cash has set on the move, the outside third. Souffle on the rail is fourth. Around the turn, Smartest Remark fifth. Tijuana Blue Chip 6th on the outside. Half-Beat Cheddar and Sherman Elmhurst the back lane now. They'll speed to the 3/4 mark. Robust Hanover in command of it. Barberry Spur, he's getting it together, winding up second. Cash has set on the outside third. They're flying now to the 3/4 mark, 1:28, with just a 1/4 of a mile to go. Robust Hanover is the leader. Tipping to the outside, Barberry Spur in second. Souffle, he's tight third. Into the action, Smartest Remark now 4th. Cash has set backs out 5th. Tijuana Blue Chip off the turn and down the stretch. As they drive for the wire, Robust Hanover on the inside. Barberry Spur on the outside. They're head in head, and here they are. In under the wire, 156.40 track record, and Sharon, it's all yours.
And thank you very much, Billy. And it was the good little horse holding off the good big horse.
What a great performance by this little colt, and he is the new star of the 2-year-old division. 2 great colts, and the 2 greatest drivers in the sport of harness racing today battling it out in that one. 156 and 4, and Robust Hanover, Warm Breeze colt out of Rosalie, Hanover, by Meadows Skipper.
And they traded the lead early part of the race, and the big guy wound up for his last challenge as they went into the final turn.
O'Donnell came out early, took Webster, went to the front, but Campbell immediately came out, knowing that Bill O'Donnell had just used his colt and would probably have to let him go, which he did. He just roared on by him. And here they are at the head of the stretch. Watch the 2 leading drivers in the sport. They have split the money-winning championship for the last 6 years, O'Donnell and Campbell. Campbell on the inside with the little horse, Robust Hanover, and O'Donnell coming on the outside with the big horse, Barberry Spur. 2 great colts coming to the wire. And as we have been seeing in the Breeders' Crown, tremendous action and a head apart at the wire. Robust Hanover is the winner.
And a very impressive winner. Again, a new track record. This time he took 2/5 off the track record set just a short time ago. Robust Hanover, the winner. He looked very comfortable on these tight turns.
He is a top-notch little horse. He's owned by Ronald F. Knigge of Roseland, New Jersey, and Wallace E. Bruce, better known as Lofty Bruce, who is the trainer of the horse as well. Lofty Bruce started his career as a groom for Stanley Dancer. He learned well. He's a trainer now and one of the top trainers at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, and he's co-owner of this colt and has hit it big tonight.
And boy, is he a proud man right now, this wonderful little horse. We have to take another time out, but we will be back at Rosecroft Raceway for more of the activities on Breeders' Crown Night. The winner, Robust Hanover. Don't forget, down the stretch on ESPN each week, the Horse Racing Weekly, usually at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursdays. This coming week, where you will see highlights of this and other races at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. The big story tonight at Rosecroft Raceway is the victory of Robust Hanover in the Breeders' Crown race for 2-year-old pacing colts. A lot of happy people in the winner's circle, including driver John Campbell. Let's go to Kenny Rice in the winner's circle.
Thank you, Sharon. Congratulations, John. What was the key to tonight's victory, do you think?
Just a good colt. He hasn't raced that much, but he came to his speed real quick, and he's just a real good colt. That's the whole thing right there.
You kept him on a straight course the whole time in this race. He looked impressive. You knew the big horse was on your outside coming up?
Yeah, I knew he was following me, and I knew he was going to be the one to beat, and it was a hell of a horse race, that's all. I was lucky enough the wire came up when it did.
Souffle got out fast, and you made sure that your horse was in good position going down the backstretch.
Yeah, he's quite handy, and he got out of the gate a little better this heat than he did last time, and I sent him on to the front, and he hung a real game.
How good do you think Robust Hanover is right now as a 2-year-old, looking ahead maybe a 3-year-old campaign?
Well, from the starts he's had, he's got all kinds of potential. He proved tonight he can go with the best there is when he beat Barberry Spur, so he's unlimited potential.
This is going to be old hat for you being in a winner's circle, isn't it?
It never gets old. It's a great feeling.
Thanks. Congratulations on a nice drive as always, John.
Thank you, Kenny.
John Campbell, winning driver, and this is a familiar sight for John Campbell, also a familiar sight dueling with his buddy and one of his top rivals down the stretch in Bill O'Donnell. Sharon?
And thank you, Kenny. And the odds on this horse were much shorter at post time than they were early on, and rightly so. He is the winner. Robust Hanover, the winner, paying $460, $260, and $240. Barberry Spur, the favorite, $240 and $220. Souffle got third, paying $260 to show the exacta. Paid a huge $6.80. Back with more in a minute. Well, there he is, Robust Hanover, the champion 2-year-old pacing colt of the Breeders' Crown, and we presume he will be the 2-year-old pacing colt of the year, son of Warm Breeze. An $8,500 yearling. What a bargain they got. He's well-bred out of a great female family by a thoroughly respectable stallion, and boy, did they get themselves a bargain. Kenny Rice is enjoying the ceremonies in the winner's circle. Let's go to Kenny right now.
Thanks, Sharon. It's always a happy time in the winner's circle. It certainly is tonight for Mr. Ron Knigge and for Mr. Lofty Bruce, not only one of the owners, but also one of the trainers. Your impressions of your horse's race tonight?
Well, like I said earlier, nothing really surprises me with this great, great little colt. You know, we bought him right, and I was kidding everybody at Harrisburg where the tent was, because I understand they gave bargains away. And incidentally, I'd like to say hello to a dear friend and a wonderful gentleman. I know he's watching, Mr. John Simpson. He bred the horse, and I've known him a long while, and it's a credit to his breeding establishment. And we just love the colt, and he knows he's in good hands.
Lofty, congratulations, Ron. You told him just before we came on, you said, let's take one more look at that little horse, dig in, and hold off the big one for the victory.
Yeah, what's so impressive about him is his size. He's a peanut. He's a very small little horse, and to race so game against bigger horses, he's just a terrific animal, and I just thank Lofty for doing such a grand job training him, and John for being the great driver that he is. It's a grand combination.
Congratulations, Ron Knigge, and also to Lofty Bruce.
Incidentally, we owe a lot of credit to our groom, Red McPherson. And this is not his.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, Sharon.
And thank you, Kenny. And we do have a chance now to look again at the race, the wonderful performance by this little colt. And we really cannot forget Barberry Spur. He was only a couple of inches behind at the finish.
Watch Benny Webster shoot out of there. He goes out with Souffle, takes the early speed and gets to the front. Now, Bill O'Donnell, as the head of the backstretch, said, I'm not going to sit behind this horse. I've got the best horse. Here I go. At least he thought so at this point. And out he roars. And now you can see as the two of them flash down the backstretch the comparative size of the big horse, Barberry Spur, in front. But right on by him goes the little horse now, Robust Hanover. He had beaten him just a month ago, and Campbell had no reason to think that he couldn't take the front and stay there. So he flashes to the front. Didn't really have too much choice, but figured that after having just made that move, Barberry Spur and O'Donnell would let him go, and he was right. Now the question is, can he hold him off from here? And the answer to it, obviously, was yes. O'Donnell's in a good spot, obviously, in second, right behind the leader, which is where a lot of people want, and Benny Webster had gotten himself very good position down along the rail and stays there as other horses move up to make their charge.
And he doesn't struggle a bit on those turns, does he?
No, he's not. He's a very, very hoop around the barrel horse. A lot of people equate size with getting around small tracks. That's not always true. Some little horses have trouble getting around turns. Some big ones can get around them easily. But both of these horses are very glib on the half-mile track. And, of course, the battle joined shortly here as they come to the 3/4 mile mark, and O'Donnell figures, I'm going to have to move shortly if I'm going to catch this little son of a gun. It is Campbell and O'Donnell, the two leading money winners in the sport. And now O'Donnell eases out as they come around the final turn with Barberry Spur. Big, powerful colt, had won 8 of 18 going into this race. But little Robust Hanover, who'd only been beaten once, Campbell leans back, goes to the whip, asks for more, and so does O'Donnell. O'Donnell hits the shaft, and the colt responds, but runs out of racetrack.
You know, this little horse reminds me of Temujin, another fast, little, determined, hard-working horse that's outsized by...
Sire Warm Breeze, a little horse, and this one's a little one.
We'll be back with more in a minute. Well, that's just about it from Rosecroft Raceway, where we've seen really two impressive performances. Robust Hanover, and of course Barberry Spur. We can't forget him for next year either.
Well, it's a wide open division. These are not the only two colts. There have been a lot of other good ones. Sherman Almahurst, who was off the month and coming back. Colt called Laughs, who wasn't here tonight. Grade 1, who won the Woodrow Wilson. There are a lot of good 2-year-olds around. It's going to be a great 3-year-old season next year. Tremendous speed, and they get better every year, Sharon. And I think the interesting thing is that an $8,500 colt can beat all these $100,000 and $200,000 colts. Gives hope to the little man. And Lofty Bruce and Mr. Knigge, who is an industrial metallurgist, represent that this evening.
How often do these colts that we see at 2 being so impressive go on at 3 and do the same? Annihilator did, but they don't all.
Well, it used to be that there was a lot of correlation between 2-year-old form and 3-year-old form. But with them starting earlier now in the season, with the big races coming early in the season, with major efforts having to be mounted in late June and early July, some of them don't come back. Attrition takes its toll. And you can't always figure how they finish and how they come back. And the question of whether going over a winter is something that is unfathomable, but it's the answer to 3-year-old championships.
One of the challenges of racing. Let's go to Kenny, who's trackside right now. Kenny?
Thanks, Sharon. Next week we will be in Florida for the Breeders' Crown. It will be for 3-year-old filly trotters. There's a lot of racing going on in Florida, a lot of training, but when you think about Florida racing, you generally think about Pompano Park. This is harness racing's winter capital. In the early 1950s, as the sport of harness racing began to grow and competition among breeders, owners, and trainers became more intense, Castleton farm owner Fred Van Lennep saw a need for his fellow horsemen to have a place to stable, train, and race their trotters and pacers when cold weather set in at the northern tracks. Van Lennep built Pompano Park Racetrack and Training Center. Horses have been training at Pompano since the mid-1950s. There are some special features here. While using a pool to condition a horse is not unique to Pompano Park, there are a few places that offer an outdoor pool for this type of training. As you might imagine, horses and trainers love the South Florida weather. Between November and February, there is a constant flow of horses, most of them younger horses, coming to work out at Pompano. Almost every good 2-year-old this season was training at Pompano last winter. This yearling is being hooked up to the bike for his very first visit to the racetrack. Trainers from the rookies to the Hall of Famers rave about the facilities at Pompano Park.
Well, it's probably the greatest place in the world to train yearlings. The weather's perfect, the tracks are excellent, couldn't be better, and it's really the best place in the world.
Well, next week we will be seeing 3-year-old trotting fillies in the Breeders' Crown race from Pompano, and that's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time again next Friday. Live Breeders' Crown action and these very good group of 3-year-old trotting fillies that we're going to be seeing. Speaking about a good group, especially a good individual, the final Breeders' Crown race of the year at Garden State. It's on November 29th at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the 3-year-old Colt Pace, and it's always considered the glamour division in harness racing, and this year it certainly is. It will feature Annihilator. He may race after this, but this will be one of the last races of his career, and of course he's the fastest racing standardbred of all time. Well, we have seen an outstanding and very fast young horse tonight. Robust Hanover, the winner of the 2-year-old Colt Pace here at Rosecroft Raceway in Maryland. The Breeders' Crown has been brought to you by U.S. Air with service to over 100 cities across the U.S. and Canada. And by First Jersey Securities. Come grow with us. That's it from Rosecroft Raceway. We thank you for being with us.